Welcome to the She Found Motherhood podcast. Today, we're doing a birth story with Shamaya, who had a pretty easy pregnancy until she went into labor at 32 weeks. She talks about her experience going into labor and also about the NICU stay with her little guy. She also gives us some great advice on having a baby in the NICU and how important it is to keep your connections and community around you.
Welcome to the She Found Motherhood podcast. We are doctors Sarah and Alicia, maternity physicians and moms who have been through it all. We want to empower you with knowledge so you can have the best pregnancy, birth, and postpartum experience you can.
She Found Health and She Found Motherhood is meant for general medical information only. The content of this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. This information does not apply to every situation. If you have questions or if you've received different advice, please contact your healthcare provider. Always seek the advice of your physician or another qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. The views expressed by She Found Health and She Found Motherhood and our guests are not representative of any of the institutions with which we are affiliated. Some of our podcast episodes are sponsored so that we can keep getting great info out there to you, our listeners. We only partner with companies that we truly believe in. Some of our links and suggestions may be affiliates, and we would appreciate you using them to help fund this important work. Now let's get to it.
Shamaya, thank you so much for joining us today to tell us your birth story. I'm so excited to hear it. Why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into it.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you for having me. So my name is Shamaya, and I'm originally from the Kootenays, Kimberley, BC. And I was living on Vancouver Island while I was pregnant, and that's where I had my son. And now I'm living actually in Lethbridge, Alberta. So we did a move with a newborn, which was just a bit crazy. I have my degree in math and statistics. I have yet to put that to work because I've been stalled with having a little baby. But yeah, I'm excited to share my story.
Awesome. Why don't we start at the beginning? Tell us about either the process of getting pregnant or that early kind of pregnancy experience for you.
Yeah, so my boyfriend and I actually weren't planning on having a baby. It was a surprise pregnancy. So that came with a lot of stressors too, because we weren't necessarily sure if we were ready for that part of our life. But here we are, we had him, and I'm very happy that we did because I could not imagine my life without my son. Yeah, so finding out, I was obviously very nervous. I didn't know what to expect. I was like the only one of my friends to be pregnant. So it was lonely at times for sure, but yeah, I'm really happy with my decision of becoming a mom.
And how did the pregnancy go for you? Did you have any major kind of symptoms in those first trimester? How were you feeling at that point?
Yeah, so overall, I feel like I had a pretty easy pregnancy aside from my son being born 8 weeks early. But other than that, my pregnancy was really good. First trimester, I felt really tired, but that's pretty normal. And I had no morning sickness, which was pretty nice. And then second trimester, I started feeling more like myself. I was able to get into working out again and doing some yoga and stuff at home. And then my brief period in my third trimester, it was just uncomfortable. I was getting bigger, sore hips, and really bad heartburn. I literally remember one night just not being able to sleep, and I had to just try and sleep sitting up on the couch because my heartburn was just so bad. But other than that, it was pretty easy pregnancy. Yeah, until he was born early.
So why don't we talk about that? So 8 weeks early, so born around 32-ish weeks. Hey, was there any kind of sense leading into it? Did you have any idea that was going to happen, or was it a total shock?
No, it was a total shock. I actually had a prenatal appointment the day before the day before my water broke. And yeah, it was a total surprise. I was at home when my water broke, working from home, and I had like a little bit of odd discharge that morning. So I decided to phone the emergency doctor at the hospital. And while I was on the phone with her, my water broke, and I was just in like complete shock. I had no idea what was happening, honestly. I thought I was peeing my pants, and then I was like trying to stop peeing my pants, as you'd say, but I couldn't stop it. They got me to come in, and on the way to the hospital, I had two more big gushes. So I was like, oh, okay, I guess this is probably my water breaking, but I'm not really sure. There was no point where I was like, oh, I'm probably going to have my baby within the next 48 hours. Like, no part of me was like, okay, yep, I'm going to have my baby now. I didn't bring anything to the hospital. Literally, my purse and a phone charger. That was it. So, yeah, it was crazy. But then I think I got there around 11 a.m. and they checked to see if it was amniotic fluid, and it was. And I wasn't really having any contractions or anything yet. So they just put me onto, I think it's called the antepartum side of the hospital, where they just monitored me to see if I would go into labor naturally or what we were going to do. And then a few hours went by and I did start having contractions. Yeah. And then by 4 p.m., I was in labor. So it was a pretty crazy experience.
And in
Yeah.
terms of when you got admitted, did they give you any so some of the things that we'll sometimes do is we'll start on some antibiotics because sometimes it can be a little bit of an infection that can cause it, or don't want baby to get infected. And sometimes we'll talk about giving a shot of steroids to mom to help mature baby's lungs. Did we have any of that, or did they chat with you around that?
Yeah, I'm, like, trying to remember everything that they gave me because I'm just like, "Oh, I don't really fully remember," but I do remember getting the steroid shot because that one hurt, and I do think they did give me antibiotics too. So, yeah, they were able to give us 2 steroid shots for the baby just to make sure he was okay before he was born, so that was good. Yeah.
So that afternoon, you kind of kicked yourself into labor, hey, or started having some significant contractions?
Yes, I did, and by the time it was, like, I wanna say maybe, like, 10:30 or 11 p.m., I remember the birth course that I took, the lady said, "You need to try to sleep as much as you can in the first stages of labor," and I hadn't slept that entire day, so I was just like, "What is happening?" So, I was like at that point, I was like, "Okay, I should probably try to sleep because this is gonna get crazy." And I also hadn't eaten anything that day either, which you're not supposed to do. You should eat and sleep in the early stages of labor, but that didn't happen. So by, yeah, 10:30, I asked for some like pain management and I wasn't far enough along to get the epidural. So they gave me some gravel and some morphine to try to help me sleep and relax a bit. So I got that. I tried to sleep, which that didn't happen. And then by 2:30, I was in a lot of pain. So I ended up getting the epidural. And then when they checked me at 3 a.m., I was already 10 centimeters. Yeah, it went really quickly.
Yeah, very fast. Hey, that must have been pretty overwhelming for so many reasons, right? 32 weeks, anxious around that. And that's a fast labor for your first labor, too.
Yeah, it was super fast. And at that point, I remember my doctor asking me if I felt the need to push. And I was like, not really. So she just let me rest and sleep for a bit, and then by 5:45, 6 a.m., they got me on oxytocin to try to get things going a bit more with contractions, and did 2.5 hours pushing, and he was born by 9 a.m.
Amazing. And how did things go right after birth? Because he's early, right? So we expect him to need a little bit of support. What did that all look like for you guys?
Yeah, so it was obviously very traumatizing for me to just have my baby and then have him immediately taken from my arms. He wasn't like, I got to hold him for like maybe 10 seconds and then they took him. And I was just in the room with my boyfriend, and Zayden was taken away to the NICU. And then I don't think I got to see him. I'm not really sure how long after. It was a while after because they had to fix me up and get him okay. And then the first time seeing him, it's just so unnatural. It's like your baby's in the incubator, connected to all these tubes and the breathing mask, and all these beeping and alarms are going off. So it was like very traumatizing for me, if I'm being totally honest. But I knew it was like the best thing for him. He needed all those to start getting healthy and his journey to coming home.
Yeah. And then went over to the postpartum ward. And how was that kind of first few days, probably in the hospital and going back and forth to visit him? And how did that go? And what was the kind of what was, did you try to breastfeed? How did all that kind of play out for you?
Yeah, so I was in the hospital for a week actually, which I really pushed my stay because I was like, I don't want to go home without my baby. So they let me stay for about a week, and it was nice in the sense that I was like close to him, so I could go as often as I wanted to. and then like go rest if I wanted to. It was obviously exhausting, and like the mom guilt of not even being there 24/7 was hard. But yeah, it was tough. He was too little to try to breastfeed right away. So I was trying to pump as much as I could. But again, I just had no idea what I was doing or anything. So I definitely struggled with my milk supply at first, like a lot. Yeah, that was difficult. And then just trying to like get in and get into a routine of getting enough rest for myself, taking care of myself while also trying to go see my baby. It was really hard. And none of my family lived on the island. So I didn't have much support that way. So yeah, it was a really hard week, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it's really hard. That's a lot for you, right? First of all, you have a baby 8 weeks prior to when you think you are. So, let alone not being ready with anything, but then your baby needs a lot of support, right? And being in the hospital out of your own state without your baby in your room with you, having to go back and forth and without kind of that support around you. It's
Yeah.
huge.
Everyone knows that the best gifts are the ones that you buy for yourself. But how can you get that exciting gift opening surprise factor while also getting yourself exactly what you need? With a nesting box, of course. A pregnancy themed subscription box filled with locally crafted, ethically sourced goodies handpicked by Doctors Sarah and Alicia to support you in whatever trimester of pregnancy you're in. From soothing soaks and balms for those first trimester aches and nausea to newborn products for when your baby arrives. We have you, or the pregnant person in your life, covered. Go to www.shefoundhealth.ca/the-nesting-box or click the link below.
Yeah. Yeah. So, assuming that you went home prior to him coming home with you, hey? That must have been hard.
Yeah, that was that was probably a really hard day. Like when I think back to it, it's like quite a blur just because there was so much going on. But yeah, it was hard to go home. I will say having a shower in your own shower felt really nice and be able to sleep in your own bed, but it was really difficult and I still wasn't getting sleep because I was trying to establish a supply. So I was up every 3 hours in the night pumping and again throughout the day pumping. And I would go back to the NICU in the morning and he's Aiden and trying to breastfeed him, just the typical change the diaper, take him out, try to feed, bottle feed, or he still had the a nose tube. So he was just getting fed by that too. And yeah, it was crazy. And he was in the NICU for a total of 29 days. So it was a very long month.
It's a very long month, but that means he came out at 36 weeks, which is pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
compared to oftentimes we say set yourself up for coming home around their due date. Yeah. And then how did things go when he got home? How did that feel? How did everything go? 'Cause that can be exciting, but also, ooh, I've only taken care of this child attached to all kinds of things that are telling me he's okay.
Yeah, for sure. I was like so scared to bring him home, honestly, because I just had this irrational fear that he was going to die, even though I know he wasn't going to. And thankfully, my mom came out when he got home from the hospital. So she was there. And yeah, it was very strange to just have him home and to be able to do really whatever you want. Because when he's in the NICU, you can't necessarily take him out every time and you got to let him rest or they're on a very strict schedule in the NICU. Whereas at home, it's okay. I don't have all these rules of the NICU and he's just here. He feels more like mine now. So it was definitely nice and also scary bringing him home. But yeah, he did really well. Our feeding was just absolute insanity at first. The whole breastfeed and then give him a bottle and then pump because he was still so little that he wasn't fully like draining my breast. But yeah, eventually we finally got him to exclusively breastfeed. So I'm very proud of myself for that. So I stuck to it and yeah, now he's just exclusively breastfed. And that was a big goal of mine. So I'm very happy that
That
happened.
is incredible. Congratulations for reaching that goal. That's really awesome because it takes a lot of work. If that's your goal, and not everybody that's their goal, and that's wonderful, but it takes a lot of work and dedication to go from having a 32-week baby to being able to exclusively breastfeed. Because when they come out that early, our bodies aren't meant to be feeding. And so it takes a lot of energy and time and patience with yourself as well, I'm sure, to really start to get that established.
Yeah,
Milk
for
supply, right?
sure.
Yeah, awesome. Did you use any medications or supplements or anything in your journey to increase your supply?
Oh my gosh. I feel like I tried everything in the book. Oh my goodness. Yeah. What really helped me when he was in the NICU and I wasn't able to breastfeed was power pumping. I'm sure lots of moms have heard of this, but it was super helpful. I had a NICU nurse tell me about it. So I did that like once or twice a day if I could. And then when he was home, I think I tried fenugreek and I didn't really notice anything like any changes. And I was on domperidone for a while. Yeah, when he was in the NICU and when he was out for a bit. And I was able to wean myself off of that. But just like staying hydrated, I found like oats too, eating oatmeal help. Yeah. But I feel like I tried literally everything in the book.
Awesome. And then you had a big move.
I did. Yes. So Zayden got out of the hospital March 5th, I believe. And then my boyfriend had to be in Lethbridge by April 4th for his new job. Like literal insanity for the first few months of Zayden's life. And I would highly recommend not moving with a newborn if anybody's going to do it. If you have the option to move while you're pregnant, I would say move while you're pregnant because moving across BC with a newborn baby was just crazy. Yeah, we had to pack everything up in like a month and find a new place and find somebody to rent out our place there. And yeah, we did it all, but it was insanity.
Now, in all fairness, if he'd actually come on his due date, you would have moved during pregnancy.
Exactly. Yeah, I totally would have.
So that was your plan. Your plan didn't quite work out as you had anticipated.
Yeah.
Fair enough, fair enough. And how did you cope mood-wise through all this? Because it's a lot. You went through that's a lot to go through, right? Any one of those things is a lot, but to go through kind of preterm delivery, baby in the NICU, big move, milk supply issues, like every one of those is a significant kind of stressor. So adding all of those, how did you do? How did you cope? Or what were your tools that really helped you?
Yeah, I feel like it was obviously really hard and it's still hard for me at times just because being a new mom, it's lonely enough as is. And then moving to a whole new city where you don't really know anybody, it just makes it extra lonely. So just like connecting with my mom friends, even if they're not in Lethbridge, I have a few mom friends in Victoria that I've connected with. And one of them, I haven't even met her face to face. And we just talk every single day and we can relate to things because our babies are like around the same age. So it's been super nice to have her to just talk to literally any time of the day. It was funny when Zane got out of the hospital. It was like our babies were on the same sleep schedule. So it'd be like 2 in the morning and she would text me and I would text her back. I'm like, oh my gosh, our babies, I swear, are connected because they just wake up at the same time at night. Yeah, definitely having like a support in that sense with new moms who you can relate to. Also, I'm closer to my family now, so they're only 3 hours away, and, like, they've been able to come and visit and help me whenever I need, so that's been, like, huge. I've been trying to get into exercising again because I know that has helped my mood a lot, but that's hard because 'cause I'm still very tired.
You're doing it right now, though, as we're chatting on Zoom. You're
Yeah.
rocking Zayden. You've got him in
Yeah.
your arms and you're bouncing around. That's
Yeah.
exercise. You're getting some core, little arm strength.
Oh, for sure.
I know. Hey, it's a lot. Now, kind of advice for people, because you guys were in the NICU for a bit, right? What advice would you give to others who are in the NICU or know they're probably going to end up having a baby in the NICU? What were like if you had to give people some advice on how to care for themselves during that time, what would you say?
I would say that it's all temporary and it is extremely hard, but just know that it is temporary and it will come to an end. And that your baby is in like the best hands ever. The nursings are amazing. And just remember to take care of yourself. Like just take even 5 minutes out of your day to do something for yourself to just make you feel sane because yeah, it's a very challenging time. And just even like talking to the other moms in the NICU, like just having a friendly conversation because you see the same people pretty much every day going in there and they're all going through the same thing. Even if you're not feeling like connecting with people, just say hello, give them a wave, give them a smile. Yeah, because being able to relate to somebody too who's going through similar things is pretty helpful.
That's awesome. Thank you for that advice. A colleague and I, who both had babies in the NICU, did a podcast a while ago on our kind of top tips around having a baby in the NICU. So we'll make sure we post that in the show notes. So if other people are sitting there listening to this story in the NICU, they can also kind of get some. But what you said is exactly some of the points that we made. So yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's so lovely to see both of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish you all the best of luck.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening. Make sure to check out our website at www.shefoundhealth.ca and to sign up for our community for weekly bump blasts. Make sure to check us out on Instagram or Facebook at she.found.motherhood and head on over to your favorite podcast app and leave a review and a 5-star rating. If you enjoyed this podcast, take a pic of yourself listening to it and share it on social. Make sure to tag us on it so we know to keep making them.